What is going on, everybody? We are back for another episode of the ABJ Podcast. This is going to be episode 78 with my guest, Blaxstorm. Give me a second here, guys. We'll get right into all the housekeeping, and we'll bring my guest in right away, have him introduce himself, give you a brief little idea about him, and then we're off to the races. Make sure you check the links below to support the ABJ Podcast. Follow me on social media, grab merchandise, or hit up that Patreon. If you're watching this now, it's pre-recorded, everything's there, but if you remember my Discord, I do stream the episodes as they're recorded the day they go live in the Discord, that people can still, you'll hear some of their questions come in, and I also do have a link in my Discord that you can go and check all of my guests' previous links and follow them on social media, as well as you'll see a link in there for any next guests coming up. You can ask your questions so we can get those in as well. So the Discord is a place to go hang out, meet new people, and be up to date and have that behind the scenes access with the content, as well as Patreon. If you join the Patreon and you not a Discord person, for $1 or whatever price you want, you pick your own price. I don't have set guidelines. It's all up to you what you feel you want to donate. It's a monthly donation. It comes right out of your bank account that you set up with, and as low as $1, you get access to interviews on Monday, and then the episode drops for everybody in the general public on the Thursday. So if you want to support, there's some new ways that we're incorporating the Patreon, so it's not just general support. There is merchandise and a lot of few other things. And also, huge thanks to my guest, Suplex Vintage Wrestling. Guys, it has finally happened. A whole store fully dedicated to vintage wrestling. They say it can never be done, but I have seen it with my own eyes. Suplex Vintage Wrestling is a store curated by wrestling fans for wrestling fans, located on 5th Street in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, just one block of South Street in the heart of Queen Village. Their shop features the largest collection of vintage wrestling apparel under one roof. Their selection includes classic designs featuring your favorite wrestlers from the Golden Age, Attitude Era, Internationals, Indies, and more. And if you're tired of watching our premium live events by yourself, then SVW hosts the best watch party since your friend Kyle's birthday party when you were 12. And if shirts and watch parties aren't your thing, let's not forget about their selection of figures, replica belts, or trading cards. From their t-shirts and hats to rare wrestling memorabilia, they have something for every wrestling enthusiast out there. So what are you waiting for? Check them out at suplex.svw on Instagram or their website, suplexsvw.com, and let them satisfy your pro wrestling needs. So make sure you go support those guys. They are absolutely doing a great job. They're doing a lot of cool things. I believe they have a giveaway going on right now. Actually, I'm not even going to get into that because I don't know when this is in the air and the giveaway might be over, but always follow them on social media for new things. Right now they're giving no belt away, but by the time you see this, it probably won't be a thing. But they have a legit replica big gold belt, and it has a bunch of people who have held the big gold's autographs on it. And if you can guess all of the autographs, you win the belt because it just hit 10,000 followers. So that's the kind of the reason why you follow them and give your shots to possibly win some cool prizes. So without further ado, let me bring in my guest. What's going on, bud?
What's up, dude? It's good to see you.
Bro, it's been a minute. It has been a minute. I used to see you a ton at Camp Leapfrog, and then there was a few times we did some shows in Jersey, and then we stopped in the same Wawa and hung out.
Yep. Oh, I think I'm losing you. Did I lose you? I think I might have lost you. Your screen is frozen. I don't know if you could hear me. Oh, no.
My browser just crashed. No idea why.
Oh, you're good. There we go.
I'm good. That's crazy. That's never happened to me in the history of this podcast. So yeah, we hung out at the same Wawa and all that fun stuff. So give a brief introduction. Just let them know who you are, your name, and what you do for a living.
Yeah. I am the tattooed torture expert, Blaxstorm. I'm located in New Jersey, and I'm a pro wrestler. On the side, I do art. I'm a tattooer. So, yeah, those are just some of the things I like to do. I have cats. I like my cats.
I love that. I do you do digital art or just print?
Just print, really. Like,
okay.
I'll do some like drawing on like my iPad and stuff like that, but nothing like crazy. I don't do anything like.
Maybe one day I'll commission you for a ABJ Podcast Blaxstorm edition logo.
Oh, something cool like that. Yeah.
That'd be cool. And then it's like a special edition. I like to support artists and give them an opportunity and like work with them to get cool different logo designs. So that maybe a Blaxstorm version of a logo would be fun. The tattooed torture expert. So that we're going to get into something because there's a match that I think two torture experts are really fun with each other. I don't know if you ever heard of him or worked with him, but Prince Ahmed would be something I think would be a cool little matchup of used to. The
You know
Egyptian
what?
torture expert. The Egyptian torture expert. He's been on the podcast. He's a great story, and he's very, very innovative.
I think I was supposed to wrestle him at some
Really?
point. And it like, I think it was like, it might have been like a year ago, maybe. And yeah, I think it fell through. Something fell through, or like, but I know that we were going to be on the same show together, and we were like probably going to be working, and something came up. I can't really remember what it was, but yeah, I think we were actually supposed to work each other at one point.
Well,
But he's good.
we gotta get that back together and get that going again.
Yeah,
That definitely has to happen.
He seems like a talented guy.
He's
we
insane.
can mix it up.
One of my favorite people to call matches for too, because he'll do match moves that I didn't even think were possible.
Nice.
The last match he was in, he was that I got to call. He was in a triple threat, and the one guy had the other guy like a German, and he ran in and leg scissored them, like flying leg scissor around the waist, and then German them both with his legs.
Oh wow!
Like he did like a back, like hooked them around his waist, backflipped, and German both of them. So it was like a double German suplex with his legs.
Wild.
I didn't even think it was possible. It was crazy.
I gotta watch out for that.
Yeah, he's super, super talented. I know the Sanctuary is a far drive. If you're ever free on a Friday, they first Fridays in the month, it's like open mic night for pro wrestling. Everyone just comes and gets like matches in. So maybe we can figure something out for you guys to square up there.
I went there a couple times actually. Like maybe like it might have been like 5 years ago, and it was really cool. Like it was, you got those great photos inside that awesome like church type of building. Like it is a church, but
that's essentially the only place I work right now. So that's where I'm doing a lot of my commentary until this job kicks in. But it's a beautiful place, and I recommend everyone going and just getting some good footage and having some fun, and you leave there learning some fun things.
Yeah, it was always fun. I think I went there 3 times, and it was a lot of fun, and everyone there was like really cool too.
Mm-hmm. It's a good environment.
I think it's John
John Trotsky. Yes.
Yeah. Trotsky. Yeah. He was really cool. I remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a while since I've been over that way.
Yeah. So let's just dive into it here. So when did you fall in love with this thing that we call professional wrestling?
So as far back as I can remember in my life, liked pro wrestling. Like when I was really, really little, I remember like my family moved into a apartment complex in North Jersey, and the little kid that lived downstairs from us on the bottom floor, he had wrestling figures. He had like, a bunch of them, like the Hasbro guys.
Yeah, that's my bucket list collection. I want to get the whole line.
They're the best. And he had some of them, and because I saw the toys, it like got me interested. So immediately I was hooked. And the first one I got was Big Boss Man.
It's a good one. One. Yo, we were so easily swayed in the late 80s, early 90s. They're like, there's a new cartoon out. I don't care. It comes with toys. I'm in.
Yeah, exactly. Like insane.
Power Rangers, Ninja Turtles, Pokemon. We all got hooked because of figures first, and then the show.
You're so right. Like it's
He-Man, G.I. Joe, all toy lines. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, and as soon as I saw that, like I started renting all like the VHS tapes from the video store all the time. But there was a time where there's actually 2 times where I totally stopped watching wrestling altogether.
Yeah, I had one of those as well. High school, right out of high school. I went to my cousin's house one night, and we're all there for a party, and I had no idea what we were there for. I was just told it was a pay-per-view. It's like boxing, and I was like, I always thought boxing was cool, but I got bored with it. Like I can't watch 2 guys. I know it's a great art and it's a great form,
you're
just 2 people
right.
hugging for 15 rounds. It just bores me. Yeah, I can't stand it. But we went to his house, and we're watching, and these guys are in a cage, and I'm like, what is this? And then the main event was the first ever fight between Tito Ortiz and Ken Shamrock, and I go, I know him. He was in WWE. And they're like, who, what? And I'm like, yeah. And then here I found out he's this giant cage fighter. And from that moment forward, I was like, I don't know what this sport is, but I love it. And I completely ditched pro wrestling for a long time.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy. I I think that MMA kind of took me out of that time period too, like around like 2000, I guess 5 or 6.
Yep.
Like
that's when the Ultimate Fighter first came on TV, 2005.
Yeah, around that time, like a lot of people were like, "Oh, this is really cool!" Like, and they started taking up MMA and grappling and stuff like that because of it. It was like total game changer, but
Yeah,
it definitely impacted pro wrestling in the worst way possible, probably.
yeah. And then they somehow mixed back together at some point. And a lot of what we like now in professional wrestling, I feel if you were a pro wrestling fan, then left and then either found Japan or our Ring of Honor, and then you've seen those shooter workers transition MMA into pro wrestling. I think it was a nice medium for people to come back and be like, oh, that's kind of cool. They can use that into their wrestling performance.
Absolutely. And when people do it good too, like, you know, you watch stuff like, you know, the guys that they book for Bloodsport and stuff like that. Like, those are good matches, man.
Yeah.
Those are some good matches that they put on. I've watched a few that they threw up on YouTube. Like, it's hard for me to like go out of my way to like order pay-per-views and stuff sometimes, but yeah,
the best way you could do it, go on Fight TV. It's $4 a month or $5 a month, and you get all of like a bunch of independent wrestling, all the GCW stuff, and you can just go back and watch all that Bloodsport.
Oh wow!
I really recommend it. Like, they're really, really good shows.
I'm always out of the loop on stuff like that. Like, something always exists that can make my life way easier, and everyone else knows about it. But yeah.
Now, did you ever train mixed martial arts?
A little bit, yeah. When I was right after I left wrestling when I was younger, around like 2007 or 8, I started training like a little bit at like nothing crazy, but when I was a kid, I trained from when I was like 6 years old until like through like high school doing karate, basically. Okay. So I had a black belt in that.
That makes sense with your strikes.
Yeah, like I just, you know what? And when I was younger too, and I started doing wrestling school when I was like 14, I asked my instructor, I was like, is it okay if I like mix in some of my martial arts like into my wrestling? He was like, yeah, sure. Just, you know, just make sure it looks good. And I was like, okay. And then I started doing it. But a lot of people got into MMA and started mixing it in with their style. And I didn't do like, you know, I'm not saying I did like competitive MMA or anything, but grappled around a little bit after, you know, I stopped wrestling the first time. And
no, you said wrestling. Is that like collegiate wrestling, like mat wrestling?
No, pro wrestling. So actually, I started wrestling when I was 14.
Wow.
And I wrestled all the way till I was like, I think I was 20 when I stopped. I got like real sick. I have Crohn's disease, so my stomach would always get like insane, and I would drop a lot of weight, and I was like constantly sick. So around like 2006 or so, I dropped out of wrestling totally. And then I came back.
What school were you at?
It was IWF it was West Patterson. Then they changed the name of West Patterson into Woodland Park. So it's in Jersey. And then down the line though, like I think when I came back, it was in 2016 or 17, and they moved the school to Nutley. So they were, that was the original school I started at before going to, I think it was 2003. I went to the Wrestle Factory.
Okay. And so I work for a promotion, IWA New Jersey in Nutley, New Jersey.
Oh, okay. I think
that crowd is crazy.
Yeah.
One of the most intense crowds I've ever done commentary for.
So cool. Yeah, like it's that really area, good. Like they like wrestling over in those towns. It's wild.
Mm-hmm. Big Hispanic community too. Like most of the promotion is all Hispanic, and they are the most fun.
Yeah. They like to have fun. Like it's awesome. And
so growing up too, when you that's insane that you started so young and that your parents let you get into it so young. Who are some, like you said, you had the karate background and all that, who are some people that you emulated or you grew up watching that you wanted to be like, or you added to your style of wrestling?
When I was younger, so when I started out and everything, I was huge on Jeff Hardy. He was like him and like the Hardy Boys were the biggest thing in like the we're talking like 2001.
Yeah.
So like, you know, the whole Attitude Era is at its height. So like, I wanted to be like fucking Jeff. Oh, am I allowed to curse?
You can curse. Yes.
Okay. I just like, I slipped. I was like, I wanted to like be Jeff Hardy. So I had like long hair. It was bleached. And I would do a bunch of stuff like the Swanton and like the Whisper in the Wind. And then everything else I did was like Tajiri, because I loved Tajiri when I before he was in WWE, when he was in ECW. I was a huge like fan of the Tajiri versus Super Crazy matches.
Yeah.
So
to every wrestling video game I had, if I didn't have a Sweet Chin Music, if I didn't have the Famous Air, I went Poison Mist or Buzzsaw Kick.
Heck yeah.
Tajiri made me, like, everyone says Muda. I didn't know Muda. Tajiri got me into the Poison Mist and the Buzzsaw Kick, where he would just snap, and I was like, that is the coolest finish. Like, that looks like it would legit kill somebody.
Yeah. and it's that time period too. Like, people don't even understand like the thigh slap thing.
Yeah.
Like the early 2000s and late 90s, no one knew what that was. So like, people, when Tajiri would throw these kicks at dudes right in their face, and you'd hear that crack of the sound.
He had leather pants.
The crowd was cringing because like it was real. Like, it seemed like unstopped, like that this dude was a madman just ripping people's heads off. That was like the shock of it all back then.
He's still like doing stuff on the indie scene too. If I ever see him at a show, like for a meet and greet, he'd be somebody I would seek out. Him and Mick Foley are like probably my two bucket list guys.
Yeah. Nice. You never met Mick?
Never. And I live right by Knoebels, and he's there all the time.
Oh,
and
wow.
I never bumped into him.
I met him when I was younger, like a teenager. I went to his book signing for when he had.
I have a nice day book. I have it. Yeah.
Nice. That was the only time I met him.
Him and Sean, Sean, and then it just like kind of falls into all these people are my favorite, but him and Sean, and probably Jericho, are like my top 3 of all time.
Nice.
Yeah, that's my
good
guy.
Picks.
Yeah, I have a style, except Mick. Mick's completely different, but Mick made me like, I was like, he looks so different than everybody else, and that's why I liked him. And then obviously the 3 characters, and I always gravitated to a character, and Mick was the first person. Like Mick, Goldust, Kane, Undertaker, like larger than life, weird people I just liked.
Yeah, I would say like my little like top 4 that was like really, I was like, I couldn't stop watching when I was a kid. Like, that was like, you know, like the Hardys, Austin, Foley, and then like probably I would say like Rob Van Dam or Sabu, because they were just. But like, yeah, that time period was wild.
You know who else I used to like a lot, and people were like, "You like him?" I was like, "He's so good." Taka Michinoku.
Yeah,
I love Taka. Good. Yeah, no one ever. I always picked him in the video games. Like, what are you doing? I like the Michinoku driver. I thought it looked cool.
He had some good matches with Super Crazy too. When he did like a little. I think it was when he left WWE for like a little bit. I don't know if they had like a contract thing, but he went down to ECW for a little bit, and then he went back up to WWE. And yeah, he's just amazing. He's good.
A psycho. So, I was going to ask, how did you kind of talked a little bit about it, but how did you transition then at such a young age? Like, how did you convince your mom? How did you find the school? How did you go through that whole process?
So this was like I was watching I went on vacation. It was summer, and I hadn't watched wrestling since I was a kid. Meanwhile, I'm still like 12 years old.
Yeah.
And where I'm flipping through the channels, and I saw on Monday Night Raw, and like my dad flipped through, and I was like, wait, go back. And he's like, what, you're going to watch wrestling? Like, how old are you? And I was like, no, like, I want to see, like, because I saw kids at school, like at the end of the school year, rocking Austin 316 shirts. Immediately, I was like hooked watching it. So a few weeks later, because wrestling's huge, I saw on the news kids backyard wrestling. So I started backyard wrestling like a dummy. And my mom was just like, you're going to hurt yourself. Like, you have to like learn what you're doing, because like they're trained professionals. And so I started looking for schools to like teach me how to do what I was doing. And I called Monster Factory, and I talked to Larry Sharp, and he was like, "You're too young. Call back in a few years." I think I called CZW, and I was too young because I was 12.
Yeah.
And so I kind of just stopped looking for a little bit. And then after a few years, when I was like 13, I found IWF, but they said I had to be 14. So I was like, all right.
I'm
so
14.
Yeah, only 14. But my mom had to sign all this stuff. And yeah, it was, from doing martial arts growing up and just being like getting into high school, you're so like young and athletic and growing. Like it was a really easy transition when you're a kid, like doing it. Nothing hurts either, which is like, I can't remember what that's
if
like.
This question can't be answered, I completely understand. I don't want to give too much away. A lot of people still protect a lot, but like at 14 and going to a wrestling school, are they just like, hey, you're gonna do your own bumps, like flip bumps, fall bumps, running the ropes, workout, calisthenics, cardio? Or like at what point do they start saying, okay, we're gonna like teach you how to put a match together, like we're gonna let you lock up and do stuff with people?
You know what, this is actually a really funny question, because like I was asking him like Kevin Knight was the trainer at the school. I was like messaging him on AOL, like, hey, like, when can I learn how to bump? When can I learn how to bump? Because I just want it. And he's like, well, eventually, when you're ready. Eventually got to it. And it was like the back bump where you hold on to like the rope. And it was easy, whatever. But after like a little bit, at least I was just treated like one of the grown-ups, like no difference whatsoever. I was 14, and I was like getting hit just like everyone else in the room was getting hit. I was so sore going to school. It was pretty wild. Were you
going to school and bragging like, I'm a wrestler?
Yeah, I was. And then sometimes it was weird though sometimes, because like I wasn't one of those kids that was like one of like the popular kids or anything. Like I didn't have enemies really, but like, so people would say things or think things were stupid, of course, because like kids in school, they say stupid stuff, but you can't let it get you discouraged.
Did anyone ever test you like, oh, you think you're tough because you're a wrestler type deal?
Yeah. I like that was one of the things growing up. I don't know if it's still like that now, but like when I was growing up, like they would tell you, like, if you were a martial artist, like, don't tell people you're a martial artist. Like, don't tell them you're a black belt. And it kind of was like the same thing with wrestling, because like people used to want to like test you or whatever. And it never works out for the other person. Like,
never.
It's just stupid. So
it's so insane to think about. Like, so I don't want to bash martial arts, but like there's people who do martial arts and there's people who break boards, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the people who break boards think they do the other martial arts and they're tough guys. It's like, well, boards don't hit back. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's a two different style of martial arts. But if someone trains at anything in life, you're going to be better at it than the average Joe. Now, there are some weird parallels where somebody either they fight a lot or they're just freak athletes and they can get by with their athletic abilities. But for the most part, if someone grapples, if someone is a shoot wrestler, and they do that for a period of time, and you pick a fight with them in a bar, you're not winning.
Yeah,
you're gonna get embarrassed.
But yeah, like people would be like that, like, or say something, or they would just like make comments at school. But yeah, that was how it was, I guess, growing up back then. I think kids are like nicer to each other now, which is like,
I sure hope so.
Yeah, me too. Like it was
rough. It was rough for my era.
I feel like we had like the last of like the assholes. Like we're getting out of the asshole era finally. Hopefully.
So because you were in professional wrestling at such a young age, did that stop you from doing other sports? Like, did you soccer, basketball, football, like was all that out the window because you already had your extracurricular activity?
I am like, so I also grew up like really into punk rock and stuff like that. So it was weird. So growing up, I was into like martial arts, like karate, but also I played baseball and football growing up. So I
Wow.
was I was doing sports, and
How did you find the time?
like I don't know, like where do you get it when you're a kid? Like
I know it's
what was I doing?
you were karate, basketball, baseball, football, pro wrestling, and then were you learning how to play a instrument at the time too?
Yeah, like I was listening to punk
Crazy.
rock, so like I'm trying to like
Were
learn
your
how to play
grades good?
guitar. Huh?
Were your grades good?
No, they were
Oh, okay.
terrible.
That may, there's the
Yeah,
there's the
so
balance.
yeah, I just didn't go to school. Uh, the no, but like I as soon as like high school hit and I was like obsessed with wrestling, I just dropped everything. Like I didn't care about anything anymore. Um, my coaches from baseball were like, "Promise me you're gonna play," and I was like, "Yeah, I promise." And I was just like, "No, like I want to be a wrestler."
I'm jumping off shit.
But like, yeah, like I'm gonna go home and like jump off the balcony of my apartment and like through a bunch of cardboard boxes. And that's what I want to do from now on.
So, what bands got you into punk music?
First punk band that I got into was NoFX.
Okay.
Kids
or what parents don't understand, or what our kids. What the
it,
hell's that?
it was I was so young when I got into punk. It was I can't remember what year. I was in 4th grade. It was because one of my friends that I met that year in school, his older brother was into punk rock and stuff. So you had like this little punk rock kid, and we just made friends. But yeah, the first band was NoFX and then Rancid. But it was back like probably like 96, 90. Yeah, probably like around 96, 97. So punk was like really cool back then. It was like,
well, I was first introduced to the pop punk.
Nice. Okay.
So pop punk was my introduction, and then I went back and learned older punk. But I remember like one of the first 2 bands that I really found for myself, and like because all growing up, both my parents are huge into music. That my dad was a DJ, but music was always a thing. They didn't play any instruments; they just enjoyed listening to it. But so I listened to all my dad's class, like Van Halen, Led Zeppelin, Motley Crue, Aerosmith, AC/DC, all that stuff. The Who, all that. And then he's like, well, you need to find your first band. And my first band was like around the time where I actually cared was Blink-182 and Linkin Park.
Nice.
Yeah,
I love
I want a Blink tattoo so bad. I want to get I don't know if I want the rabbit or if I want the smiley face.
You know what? It's funny. Like the smiley face one, I remember when that album came out like years ago, and I was like, oh, it's like the new thing like that they're using.
It's like the Nirvana face.
So now it's been so long now that's so iconic to that band that it's like it's awesome. Like it's funny how like when something new comes out, you're like, no, that's stupid, and then like years later, you're like, oh, I love it. It's just like I go through that with certain albums too.
I have younger cousins, and my younger cousins now are obsessed with like My Chemical Romance, or not cousins, but like my friends' kids and shit are obsessed with My Chemical Romance and Fall Out Boy and Blink, because Blink's. I'm like, that was my like teenage years bands. Like what? I'm like, they've been around that long. Like I remember when Fall Out Boy put their first album out.
Yeah. Me and my wife will drive around and like put on stuff from like, that era, and she loves like Fall Out Boy and Yellow Card.
Yep.
Yeah, I like a good portion of it, and then like I think the other portion I'm just not familiar with because I was listening to other stuff. But
punk is like anti-establishment, and then emo is like sad boy punk.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's punk adjacent, Yeah. So we took a weird detour there, but I loved every minute of that. Cool, so finally you're training. I'm guessing, you're doing everything, but you weren't allowed to physically be a part of a match until you're 18, unless Jersey's Wild West, who knows what the rules there. But when did you first have your first match where you're like, oh my God, I'm going to do this in front of a crowd?
We did get detoured now that I'm just realizing how far. So I took all the bumps and everything myself, got treated the same as everyone. And then we started doing matches, and I'm not going to lie, like, I didn't really know the psychology. I'd understand the psychology of the match for like 3 years.
Like you didn't sell?
like I think everyone else knew what the deal was. And then, but whenever I was working with someone, they would come up to me and they'd be like, what do you want this to be? What do you want that to be? And I'd say, I want to do sunset flip and I want to do Inzagiri. And they'd be like, okay, cool. And then we'd kind of just call it in the ring. And yeah, my first match was, I think I just turned 15 when I had
in front of a crowd.
Yeah.
Wow.
First
one-on-one battle royal, 6-man tag.
One-on-one singles match.
Wow, look at
5
you.
minutes. Yeah. Blown up, like crawling around, selling.
Now, were you the kid out there who just got the shit kicked out of him because you were the small kid? Were you like the Spike Dudley of your wrestling school?
Kind of. Yeah, sort of. And I think that they kind of wanted me to be like that. And I didn't want to be like that. Because when I was a kid, like I was so skinny and little, like I hated it. Because the kids in school would be like, "Oh, you're so skinny. How could you be a pro wrestler?" And like, so I just worked out like nonstop. Yeah. So like they wanted me to be like this Spike Dudley character. Literally, like said that, like oh, so, and I wanted to be more like Tajiri, Jeff Hardy, high flyer type of guy.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like not squash matches, but like, you know, a lot of heat on me. And then at the end of the match, I get a few things and maybe win, but I don't remember winning. Yeah. Like, yeah. I wasn't ever like put up on like some big thing where it was like the 14-year-old did it. He won the tournament. No, nothing like that.
When did you find out you were diagnosed with Crohn's? Was that young or was that later on in life?
I was 19.
Wow. So how was that? Now, was that a setback for you when it came to pro wrestling, or was it something you struggled with for a while but wasn't diagnosed till 19?
Yeah, like I think so. I think I started having problems when I was 17, and just like most people, like when problems occur with your health, like some people just ignore it and they're just like, "Oh, it'll fix itself," but like it's the worst thing you can do.
That's exactly what I did with my joint disorder.
Yeah, like so I just ignored it, and like it got worse, and I didn't know that if it was something, and it turned out like, yeah, it was. I think like I went to the doctor because I think I was just throwing up, and I was like in pain, and some other stuff was going on too that was like fucked up. So like they did a scan and everything, and they're like, "Oh, you have Crohn's." And then it wasn't long after the diagnosis where like I was in the hospital like nonstop, like in for a week, out for a week, in for 3 weeks, out for a week, in for 2 weeks. It was like that summer when that was the summer I left wrestling. It was so crazy. And then towards the end of it all, like they finally wound up doing surgery on me to like take the diseased area out. But like, it was wild, like being in and out of the hospital so much. They were pumping me full of all kinds of drugs, and like it was not, I got a glimpse of like what people could potentially be going through in the world of like when they get hooked on like drugs at the doctor, and then they're like thrown out into the world like with no drugs. Like I remember like coming out of I had never really done drugs before, like ever. I was straight edge, like I was a straight edge kid listening to hardcore and everything, and all of a sudden I'm in the emergency room. They're like, "Here's some morphine," and like I was like, "What's going on? This is insane." So like I was like, they gotta not give this to people. I mean,
that's what I want. But every time I'd go, I was like, "Hey, my joints hurt, my body hurts." So like, well, here's more pain pills, and then I hit a certain age where I was just like, when I found out pain pills and beer was a cool combination, and I was just like, I got to adjust here. And I stopped. I dropped the pain pills, and I switched over to, let's just say, medical marijuana, and it changed everything for me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people are bringing that into like with the medical marijuana, they're using it for like alcoholism and stuff like that too. Like I saw some people are putting that on, like it's like Crohn's and cancer and stuff like that, but they're adding like does help with like addiction and stuff like that. Or
I see more wrestlers after a match, not trying to out anybody, but go in the back and take a couple hits of a pen or light something up. And like the days of like the old school guys are like there was 3 cases of beer in the back, or there was pills being distributed, or people doing lines. And it's just like, I personally have never seen that. I just seen people smoke a joint after their match, and they're just like, and they're like, oh, it makes my body feel better. And it's just like, what a difference in just this industry that helps people so much.
Yeah, it's such like a good, excuse me, that's a good like view of how like wrestling is now. Like, it's a lot more chill, it's a lot more accepting. Like, you know, you're not going to get, you know, beat up by your trainer because you went in and smelled like weed, you know, like, you know, it's not like that anymore. And then, yeah, since I've been back in the day, like early 2000s, like I was like a teenager and I had seen cocaine mixed around in things in places, and I was a kid. But now, like, I've been back for like 6 years now, and I haven't seen anything like that. I haven't even seen, I mean, I saw one person once that was definitely on something, but for every other show, like, I've never seen drugs. I've never seen anybody getting wasted. Like, this generation of wrestlers is like top notch. They are respectful. They respect each other. They respect the building. Like, it's just a sign of like, we're in a good era of wrestling. Yes.
Totally agree.
And then it's, you know, smoking weed outside, like, so much better than all that shit. Like,
yeah, I 100%. So my next question for you would be, what are some of your favorite matches you had? But I want to kind of backtrack and make it about us real quick. But when we first met each other, we talked about when people mix mixed martial arts into professional wrestling. And the first time I ever really had my first taste of independent pro wrestling, or I was a part of a production team, and was Camp Leapfrog. And we did Frog Sport, which was essentially the blood sport version, but our wacky Mortal Kombat version. And it was a lot of fun. And I just remember, like, I was really intimidated, but I was watching it, and I watched the first couple matches, and I just remember being like, if we did a couple different things here, it would feel more like mixed martial arts and not what it was. And I remember pitching the idea to the people running it at the time, and then I pitched it to Matt Mikowski, and I believe you were around it as well. And I was like, if there's anyone around ringside who knows mixed martial arts calls, like, I feel like if they almost like a corner man where they yell out like, watch the choke, pull your guard, even if the person in the ring has no idea what they're saying, the audio of people watching will make it seem more legit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I remember pitching it to Darius. He's like, well, I need to do something that's a heel thing, but in the context of this, what can I do? And they were like talking about low blows or an illegal move. And I was like, I know one that'll be even worse. And they're like, what do you mean? I said, when you finish them, how are you going to win the match? They're like, oh, we're going submission. I said, don't let go. Force the ref to make you let go, because that's even worse than anything else in the mixed martial arts world. Like, if you have an arm bar and you're not letting go, not like that's deemed like, and swinging after the fight. But I mean, but in that context, I felt instead of a low blow or an eye gouge or something, I felt like holding the submission on after the person clearly taps and not letting go was more of a scumbag move. Yeah. And he's like, and he ran with it, and he did it the whole time. And I was like, that's kind of cool. Like it went through. But I remember you, Matt, and a few other people, you can definitely tell you guys had some sort of mixed martial arts knowledge, background, and stuff like that. And it showed in your matches.
Oh, yeah. And thank you. Like, that was like so much fun getting to, you know, wrestle Matt. And
I still have the kick pad.
Mix it up. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. I hope me and him get to work again someday. I think he just recovered, or he's been recovering from his knee.
I think it was.
Yeah. Like, man, he's good.
Yeah.
He's going to do stuff. He's going to do stuff for real. He'll fit in anywhere he goes, especially with the what we we're just talking about, like mixing the two styles. He keeps it real. So, you know,
and he's super athletic too. Like, I mean, if you haven't go to High Tension Wrestling on YouTube and
Mhm.
search the Camp Leapfrog, he finishes a match with a top rope superplex that turns into a flipping armbar. Like,
Yeah.
like what?
I
Like,
I remember, I think I was like watching that and I had no clue that was coming, and I
yeah,
was, what was
yeah.
that? I lost it. Like,
It was like a
that's
Spanish fly flipped into like a
yeah,
flying armbar in midair. It was
no
from the top.
physics,
It
bro.
was crazy. But that's kind of his bit where he can pull an armbar at anything. Like
Mhm.
it looks like a back body drop into an armbar. Like that's Mikowski's bit, and it's awesome. It's so much fun. That's what Ronda Rousey should have been doing, because her whole
Yeah.
career was based off armbars. But they like creative waves of her getting into the armbar, but her pace got so slow her second year. It bummed me out.
Mhm.
So yeah, so what are some matches you personally have had that really stand out for you, or if people can seek them out online or go search for them, what would they be?
There was one, I don't even know if it's up, but it was a tag match with, I was teaming with Hermit Crab against Johnny Moran and Green Ant, who is Ultimo Ant now.
Yes, he changed up. Yeah,
He's evolved.
yeah. All those characters from those have changed their name a little bit, or just changed the hair, so it's their own thing now.
He's evolved. He's like silver now, so
Yeah.
he's cool. Yeah, we had a tag match that was like no holds barred. Like, I don't know if it was false count anywhere, but it was like anything goes street fight, and it was just like weapons, and it was a lot of fun. Like, I know we were beating like the hell out of each other with some of this stuff, but at one point I actually I took a chair shot, and I didn't put my hands up because I was just like, yeah, I'm a tough guy, I'm not gonna put my hands up. So I took chair shot, and it just put like a hole in the top of my head that's like, it's still there. And I just started like blood everywhere. It really added to the match on the bright side of things. But yeah, I think we finished the match. Like, that happened, went a few more minutes, got everything going, and I think I got powerbombed through like a door like a couple minutes after that, and I think that was like the finish. But it was a blow off match, so there was a story to why we were fighting.
What promotion was this?
Excellence in Pennsylvania. They haven't done anything in a while. That was so much fun. That was always a good time. Every month, just like, in Sellersville, just always the one, like, guaranteed spot. It was really cool. Always a good crowd too. Like, they just love pro wrestling. Weird town. There's nothing out there. There's nothing.
That's most of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, but we were
woods and coal towns.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like that, like a coal town type of thing. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And then I would say, like, I had a match with Ray Jazz for Wrestling Open. It was actually my Wrestling Open debut. Okay. That match was a lot of fun.
Did you ever get to work any names?
Not really. It's funny, like, a lot of the times when I'm on shows and there's like names and stuff, they're always like announced ahead of time with their matches, and it's like, it's not that I'm getting on the show later, but I feel like they had like whoever it was in mind with them. But not saying I wouldn't want to work names. Of course, I would love to work some names, but no one really on the list. I mean, like, I've tagged with Cheeseburger and Eli Isom a few years ago in like Alabama. We were in like a 6-man. But yeah, I that's the names thing, like, not too many really.
Yeah, I think the names thing happens one or two. So what you just said here is you work Jersey, Pennsylvania. You said you were in Alabama, so you move around a lot. So is good for you because you get out more. But I feel like a lot of guys who get the names at a promotion are people who kind of stay within their 25, 30-mile bubble. Or they stick only to that promotion, and because they're there all the time and they've kind of made that their home, then they get rewarded with the names when they come in. Where if it's a guy like you who like you make your journey around because you make this your industry, you might lose those opportunities because you're not a regular at a promotion.
Yeah, no, yeah. I feel like that you're spot on with that. Like if I'm, just coming in for like a one stop before, I'm going somewhere else or whatever, like, chances are I'm going to probably be with like someone that wrestles like me or whatever, like, or the same size as me. And then, names usually with the guys that are there for a while to be like the champion or whatever.
The established people that the crowd knows.
Yeah.
What are some promotions that you work at now that people can search and say and find a lot of your backlog or places that you attend more than others?
I've been kind of injured recently. So I've been healing up. Like my back is like, it's upper back, like lower neck area has been a little wacky. So like, I've been just taking some time to heal it. So I've been taking a little time off, but
how much is that from wrestling and how much is that from tattooing?
It's crazy. Like I'll have a match and I'll be like, I feel like I'm going to be like totally dead tomorrow. And I'll wake up the next day and I'll be fine. And it's weird. But then if I do like a 4-hour, 5-hour tattoo, like the next day or something like that, I'm like dead. It's because you're like hunched over.
Every tattoo artist I know, their backs are destroyed. Like they're worse than wrestlers.
So I do both. So I'm like, my back is just murdered. So everyone that watches me wrestle, just like, no, I'm always in pain. It's like,
your hands too. That gun, like, I mean, the newer guns, the ones that don't have a lot of the vibration or the loud noise and stuff. Like, there's ones that look like just a stylus pen that somehow like they're crazy. That's like a pop-in battery.
It's so much.
There's not even a coil or anything on them. I actually just got tattooed by one. It was actually very pleasant.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's actually what I use. Like, I used to use like the coil machines and everything, and got used to the weight. And you had friends or mentors or whatever that use those things for like 20 years. They get like arthritis. They get carpal tunnel really bad, and then you can only work for a certain amount of years. So the evolution of like the pens and stuff like that, it's huge. Like I'll be able to tattoo like forever.
And the girl who just recently she actually did the ABJ logo that's behind us, and then she's done a couple of my tats. She did I was like one of her first apprentice tattoos she did.
Nice.
I made her do color and everything. She was terrified. I was like, what's the worst ever? You fuck it up, and then I don't care. I'm happy to give you the opportunity to try. But she was someone who painted and did a lot of digital art and draw. And like, I think her coming into the tattoo game and not having to use the old school stuff and using the stylus pen, and she took to it better because it was more comfortable for her transition through.
Yeah. Those things, like the old coil machines, it's nothing like drawing. It's like, it's trying to like draw with a lawnmower. It's like ridiculous. I don't know how we did it for so long, but here we are.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna come back to tattoo. I promise. This is my ADHD taking us on side quests. So other matches, if you can't think of anything, if not, matches that you want that you have never had. That like, boy, if I can speak it into the universe and I want to work that guy or work that guy again or be a part of a program with this person, who would those people be?
You know what? I had this company had 2 shows, and I had a pretty fun match on both shows. It was upper limit wrestling. The first show I was in like a 4-way with Jay Bougie, Brother Greatness, and Gabriel Sky. And that was so much fun. Like the 4 of us in there, like we mixed really well together, and I really liked.
I love Bougie, but his character's a dirtball. He's so good.
They're all 3 of those dudes were like awesome to work with. They're so talented. I'd go one-on-one with any one of those dudes. And then like there's dudes like Ichiban or Mach 10.
Yeah,
those dudes real good.
Are you aware of Rocket on the scene? Like Rocket's another high flyer if you want to work someone who's.
You know what? I was supposed to actually a couple months. I think it was during the winter. I was supposed to be in like a scramble match, and I think Rocket was in the scramble match, but I got COVID and I couldn't make it to the show. Like I was
He's
sick.
unbelievable. He's
Yeah.
he's the guy on the scene right now that I keep telling people that like he's gonna be on TV soon.
I got to check him out then. Yeah.
His body control in the air is unbelievable, and his mentality into it is really good. He's an H2O kid. He's a Tremont kid.
Oh,
And,
nice.
Yeah. So his mind state's there. He has one of the best frog splashes. Like he rivals Montez Ford with his frog splash.
Wow, he gets up there.
He's so talented, and his charisma's through the roof. And he's not someone that looks for every high spot. He knows how to stop and work the crowd and get them involved. Like he's got it all together, and he's only been doing it a short time.
That's awesome. Yeah, those H2O kids, man. Like
Marcus,
they're good, man. I when I came back to wrestling, like I didn't know some of these schools didn't even exist when I left. 10 years before I came back. I was gone for 10 years, so like some of them didn't exist, so I didn't know what to think of any of them. So like seeing how good some of these kids are, it's really cool. Like those H2O kids are awesome.
Yeah. So any other matches out there that you would love to square up with?
Anyone that's like, I like guys that are like, I don't do too much like high flying type of stuff, but I like wrestling guys who do a decent amount of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, like I was saying, like someone like Mach 10 or Ichiban, you know,
well, the whole bit for you as a torture expert is you're slowing down their momentum so that the ring psychology is better for those type of people.
Yeah, I feel like it mixes well. Also too, like I don't mind being like an underdog in the match either, like fighting big dudes. Like if I have to, like Tyree Taylor, like Rex, he's a monster.
He's huge.
Yeah, like I don't mind fighting big dudes. So like, you know, I just like to go out there and try to tell the story.
Have you ever done an intergender?
Yeah, well, you know what? Just like bits here and there, but like I think that the funniest thing about that I don't really like work that many intergender matches is that when I came back to wrestling, I was training with Damian Adams, and I trained with him for 3 years. And so every Thursday night, it was me and Tasha Steelz. Like we were
okay.
Thursdays was dead for some reason, and it was always like one of the beginners and then me and Tasha Steelz every Thursday. And then
former Impact Women's Champion.
Yeah, like we would train like, and Deanna Purrazzo would come in because she would be on
Impact Women's Champion.
Yeah, like, so she was always at that time really busy with Ring of Honor and stuff like that, and I think she was like in talks of getting signed by WWE also.
Mm-hmm. Wasn't she in the Mae Young Classic and then she went back to ROH?
Yeah, I forget.
I think that's what happened.
Yeah, I forget how exactly it went, but yeah, so she
WWE gave her really harsh critiques, like she wasn't good enough or something like that. And then the next year she was ROH Women's Champion and then became like Impact Women's Champion and just been dominating ever since.
Yeah, that just shows like they might be the biggest company in the world or whatever, but like they still make mistakes. Like they will still make mistakes, and to never like their word isn't the final word. Like people out there that like used to work there, that they're on the indies making more money than they were when they were, you know, signed to like an NXT deal.
Sami Zayn recently just came out and said, I lost almost $100,000, close to $100,000 or $75,000 a year leaving the indies to get my NXT contract.
Right there. Yeah.
That's like crazy to think about.
I mean, now it's worth it. Like, but back then, you know, if you're not sure what they're going to do with you, like you might be sitting in catering for 3 years and then everyone on the indies forgets about you. Like that's not cool. So I always think like when people are like, all right, that's your opinion, I'm going to go bet on myself and, you know, do what's right for me.
Well, let me pop some Discord questions in here. So the first one by Hunter Dillon says, as a self-proclaimed torture expert, what is your favorite submission to use on a wrestler?
I like to use as I usually finish people with this. It's like if I'm on IWTV, I have like this habit of I use it. It's called the double palanca. It's I learned it in a lucha seminar actually years ago, and you kind of take you lay the person on their stomach if you can get them down there, and then you take their arm, sort of like a crippler crossface, sort of like a Rings of Saturn type of deal, where you hook the arm across you and you pull the other one over top, so you're kind of torquing the shoulder and the pec, and then a little bit on like the wrist. I like that one a lot, and of course I like stuff like the sharpshooter because I'm a big Bret Hart guy. Fujiwara armbar is also a classic.
I love that.
Anything, and then when I was growing up, my all-time, besides the sharpshooter, all-time favorite submission was the Taz mission. Okay. Very, very big Taz guy growing up.
Love that. Well, what's Steven's question? What's with the tattoos, especially the head?
Oh yeah, bro, I got my head done. Yeah, I
when did you start getting them?
I got my first tattoo when I was 15.
As I say, you're already wrestling, so your parents are cool as shit.
It was like a few months after I started wrestling. I was with my buddy Nick. He was also a wrestler. He was also 15.
Where is your first tattoo?
So it was here.
Oh, you covered it.
So friend from wrestling, we went in. He lived in Yonkers. His wrestling name was Tommy Trouble back in the day, and we went into Yonkers, and like I went into the shop and they were closing, and I was like, yeah, I'm totally 18. I did not look 18, and got a bad tattoo, and I thought it was so cool. Then years later I got it covered because I got a bad tattoo.
What was the tattoo of?
It was like a dagger, and it said like no fear.
Oh, the no fear. The eyes, like, the eyeballs.
Same company, like it was the same logo. It was so ridiculous. I picked it off the wall. It was
so. I want to get a dagger tattoo, but this is I'm a Sean guy. So Sean's shitty dagger heart snake. Mm-hmm. I want that, but I want it the same idea, but I want an American traditional artist to redo it in his style, but still have the same premise and layer of the tattoo of like the dagger going through the heart with the snake wrapped around. So it's still the same Sean art, but it's someone else's art doing it and put it right in the same spot.
Classic.
Yeah, that's been my dream tattoo since I'm a kid, but I always thought it'd be funny.
I think when I was a little kid, me and my sister played tattoo outside, like in my grandma's front yard once, and I drew that tattoo on her because it was the only tattoo.
Something's dinging. Oh, that's stopped. No, you're good. You're good. Yeah.
That was the only tattoo that I could like think of in my brain was the Shawn Michaels tattoo.
Yeah.
Totally iconic.
One of the first things I learned how to draw was the Brahma bull skull because everyone was like that. Nice. The Brahma bull skull and the Chicago Bulls.
Nice.
There was like, yeah. So, what is your favorite tattoo you have on you that has the most meaning, and what was the worst pain tattoo you've gotten? Well, they all suck, but like a spot that you're like, oh, it was the worst to sit through.
Yo, like for real. So before I got my head done, the worst spot on my whole body was like right below my chest, like where your the front of your ribs,
like your stomach area.
Yeah, like up onto like your stomach, up onto the ribs area. That was like just getting it filled. Like if you see the pictures of me and stuff, like how it's just solid color, like it was like torture. It was really bad. But then years later, I get my head done, and I got it done in like sections. So the one side I got done, it has like it's like a. I don't know if you could see it, but it's like a
Japanese demon.
Yeah, it's like a Japanese Oni mask, similar to what I have on my front. And I was like, wow, this sucks. And then I got the back done eventually, and that also hurt. But then when I got the top, it was like horrible. Like
horrible.
like all
Oh,
this through like the hairline area. It was bad, like really, really bad.
I watched a guy get implants put in his head.
Oof.
The most blood I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, dude,
It
your
was
head
awful.
bleeds. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
What was the? Well, how do you feel? Because listen, I know me, my next tattoo, I'm doing it. I don't give a shit anymore. I'm too old for this shit. I hate getting tattoos. I like having them. What do you feel about the numbing cream?
I don't care. I've used it before.
Yeah, I'm doing it.
I used it on my nipples because like they're tattooed. There's parts of them that are blacked out, and I was like, yo, I don't want to feel this. So I used it, but then I reckon if you want to use it, I feel like use it for like something small, and that's not going to take too long. Because when I used it, it wore off after like 25 minutes, and it made it feel worse.
And you can't reapply it?
You can, but like they say on the bottle, like you're supposed to like put like glob it on your arm or whatever, and then wrap it with saran wrap so that like it insulates it. And you're supposed to leave it for like at least a couple hours for it to really start to work
before the tattoo.
Yeah. So that's the way you're supposed to do. I think the one that I had like years ago was like 3 hours, and I was like, cool, let's do this. And it still wore off after like a half hour. I was so pissed. I was dying. I was in so much pain. Yeah. So maybe for something small, or like I tell people sometimes, like if you want to get like a piercing, it's really cool. But
yeah,
as far as an artist goes, like sometimes it bothers the skin, but it's not too bad.
Yeah. So one of the questions in the Discord, and that was one I was going to bring up here, so we're on the same page. But I'll give Raz the credit for the question. Raz in the chat. He's my UK buddy soon. How did you come up with the name Blaxstorm? Where does this character come from, and where do you how did you come up with the idea of this persona?
So this is actually a really good question, because no one's actually asked me this before. Blaxstorm is, my name growing up in wrestling was Dylan Black. And I came back and I was still Dylan Black. And then like a couple years later, this dude goes on TV named Aleister Black, and he also has tattoos. And I'm like, well, this is getting rough out here. So I might have to change the name. And then like I wrestled in a match with a very good wrestler he's a cool dude named Logan Black, from New York. You know who Logan is. And I was like, you know what? Like, I feel like I could just change my name. It's not a big deal. Like, I'm like, for some reason it got in my head that I was like tattooed guy, same last name as the guy on TV. So
also has giant skull on the front, but on the back, like a lot of strikes, a lot of kicks.
They got a red beard, like
So
I was like, I'm always on the thing of like who made it famous, not like, oh, I had it for, because technically I had it in 2001, my name was Dylan Black, but like, you know, he goes on TV and that's his thing. Cool.
There was a guy named Tyler Black for a while too, right?
Oh yeah, you know what? I didn't watch wrestling during that time period.
Yeah, that's wrong.
So, but I was like, I'm just gonna change it, but I want it to be something kind of similar. So I watch a lot of hockey, and one of the dudes from like the Capitals, Nicholas Backstrom.
Yep.
He's got some of the best hands in hockey. The dude his passing game is amazing.
I'm a Capitals fan.
You're a Devils fan?
Capitals.
You're a Caps fan?
Yep.
Nice. I'm a Rangers fan. So, I remember watching these playoff games though, of Nicholas Backstrom just like ruining us with these passes and these plays, and I would just get so pissed. But like I respected it. So I was like, what about like Dylan Backstrom or Blaxstorm? And so I just kind of like put it together like that. It's kind of like a mix of like my liking for hockey and the name I had already.
Yeah.
And then I
put
put an X in there just because like it might bring more attention in there. And
it's punk.
It's punk. So like I sign it with an X.
Yeah. And I mean, you could do a cool like logo with the big X and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah. It's a little easier to sign too. It's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then, you know, the torture expert thing had to like, it come to me. The phrase literally just like popped in my head one day. Like tattooed torture expert. Like, it just popped in my head, and I just kind of went with it and tried to like build it up to be something cool.
I like that. So Raz also asked, you've been all over the world. You said you've been to like multiple states. Where are some other states you've been, and what are some states that you want to, or anywhere in the world you'd want to wrestle if you had to pick?
So I've wrestled in places like I was up in like Vermont. I wrestled. I've wrestled in Alabama, Georgia, PA, obviously, Jersey. I've wrestled in New York, but like not too often, which is weird because it's about an hour from me. But I understand it's hard running a show in New York because of like the athletic commission and stuff. So like it's hard.
Jersey just got hammered down too.
I saw that. It's insane. But it's hard to bring guys into New York because like transit and stuff like that. Like, but yeah, like I would like to actually wrestle more in New York. Like, I mean, traveling and going over the bridge and stuff, it's rough, but like I don't mind. Like, crowds in New York are always wild. I haven't wrestled in Delaware, actually. I wrestle in Maryland kind of on a regular basis now with Flying V. They always have really good shows. That's where I was recently and had a great time. They're down in like the Baltimore area, but I want to get out to like everywhere, like Texas, Cali, anywhere on the West Coast, really. Like, just to
any internationals you'd like to do?
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, I went to, right when lockdown started, I went to Germany to train at the WXW Academy that they had out there.
Sick.
And it was like, I was having so much fun, and I was supposed to stay for like a month, and I was staying with like the other wrestlers that were there on their international tour to do like, they were having a tournament, and it was huge. Like, WXW in Germany is like crazy. Like, it's like they don't have as much wrestling going on out there as we do here. So it's like the shows are really, really good. And then like the crowd is like amazing too. So I think that they had some stuff up on the WWE network at one point. I don't know if it's still up, but yeah, I would check that stuff out. It's good wrestling. But I trained out there, and then lockdown happened, and I had to come home early. So yeah, I was supposed to wrestle on a show, and I think it was in Belgium. I was going to wrestle, and I was really excited. And it got called off like the day before because they just, like, in America, they were shutting everything down, and there it wasn't yet. And then right as I was leaving, it was like, the burger place is closed. I was like, God damn it.
Yeah. What? Well, here's our final question of the podcast, and it is sponsored. This is a sponsored question by Logos by Hunter. So if you're looking for a logo for your merchandise or your podcast or anything, hit him up. He's on YouTube and Instagram. Logos by Hunter. He's done a lot of stuff for me. He's super, super talented. But his question is, and we're going to always end with the podcast with this, is if you could write a letter to your younger self, what would it say?
Letter to my younger self. Don't give up.
John Cena.
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, I would say, yeah, like, yeah, just because, like, with wrestling, I had to stop, and I feel like there was a point where I could have come back earlier, but I was, caught up in life and, maybe people I shouldn't have been hanging out with, and
Johnny Trouble or whatever his name was.
Yeah, but then, I came back, so, not to give up on anything.
Absolutely. Well, where can people find you on social media or to follow along with you on your journey?
I'm on Instagram and Threads under @Blaxstorm1 with the number 1. And I'm also on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. It's so stupid.
I gotta change my little bird up there. I just realized that.
Oh yeah.
I added the thread and never got rid of the bird. I have to put the X up there now.
Bro, it's so lame now. Like,
yeah, it is.
You should just make cars. Don't make social media.
Bring MySpace back. Can we have MySpace back where you can put your songs and your top 8? I need that back.
Yeah, like, it's just Twitter sucks now. But yeah, I mean, I'm on there too with the same handle, Blaxstorm1. And
Awesome.
yeah, that's where to find me really. And I think match wise, like I got some stuff on IWTV on like Wrestling Open and stuff like that. And yeah.
Check them out. Well, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate this. I had an absolute blast learning about you. I hope the guests really enjoyed this as well. Make sure if you're listening to this on the audio platform, you leave a 5-star review in the Q&A section on Spotify. You could leave a little review. Tell me what you thought of the podcast. Apple, you can leave reviews. And if you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment below if you're watching this later on. Let us know what you thought of it. Hit the thumbs up buttons and subscribe if it's your first time here. We'll see you next Thursday with our next guest. And that'll do it for the ABJ podcast. There's some music by the Converse Kid. And we'll see you next time.